When was the last time your feet touched the soil? When was the last time you wandered in the forest? When was the last time you allowed one of those yellow and black caterpillars to walk down your finger? Why am I asking all these crazy questions? Is it because I'm a naturopathic physician, you say? Possibly. What do I mean by these questions? Well, I mean them in a Stephen Harrod Buhner Lost Language of Plants kind of way. If you haven't read, you must pick it up and read it. One of the things that I see in my practice and in myself would be that most of us are out of balance in the way we relate to the rest of life. Not merely human life, but we've become oriented in such a way where we lose out and there's a wound that occurs in our relationships with other forms of life. Part of this comes from a Western culture indoctrination and education where we forget about the limitations of science. We're schooled to reduce and break things down into mechanisms and deaden the world, really, with how there are just steps for something and a reductionism of sorts. Unfortunately, we start to see the universe as a machine. We relate to the universe as a machine, and in so doing, we lose a lot. Because the universe is not a machine. The universe is an organism. The term in botanical medicine is Gaia. This sense of the breathing, dynamic interaction between all living things. And many of us are cut off from this energetic, dynamic force by allowing our perspective, our worldview, our science to corner us such that that's the only perspective we take. That wounds us in a particular way. Think about, this is an example from Stephen Harrod Buhner's book, by the way, an interaction with a puppy. You walk into a room, the puppy doesn't yet see you, and all of a sudden, this little puppy sees you, comes bounding over to you, it's you, jumps in your lap, and there's this exchange of energy between you and the puppy. Something leaves the puppy and enters you, and something leaves you and enters the puppy. We no longer have a word for this in our language. The same sort of exchange can happen with trees and plants, but we have to re-educate ourselves, retrain ourselves to experience such a thing. We lose our ability to connect in such a way because we can spend a long time, months, years even, where we don't touch anything living. We live in our carpeted world in our house, walk down a concrete sidewalk to step onto pavement to get into our vehicle, or maybe even just in our garage where it's concrete. Drive to work, step out on the sidewalk, walk into our building, up to our cubicle where we don't see or exchange energy with anything living other than people. And we wonder sometimes why we feel empty, or a sense of loss or disconnect. And a lot of people that come into my office, want to say it's anxiety, it's depression, it's the fact that my mother just died. Yes, all of these things affect our health. Our relationships with other human beings are incredibly important. but so does our connection with other forms of life on the planet. We cannot exist here without the plants and the exchange that we have with plants. We breathe in the oxygen that they off-gas, and they use the CO2 that we off-gas. We need them. Part of the way we relate to the universe as machine, let me give you an example of this. I live in the Grand Canyon state. 4.5 million people visit the Grand Canyon every year. Most of them, the average span of time spent at the Grand Canyon, grand though it may be, is less than 4 hours. Of the 4.5 million people who visit the canyon, less than 1% of them hike into the canyon every year. If you've been below the rim of the Grand Canyon, you are in the top 1%. What I see often is this lack of respect for the nature, for the immense expanse of the canyon. People think it's like another Disneyland. They step off their tour bus in their high heel shoes and their mini skirt and their tiny little bottle of water with their iPhone on the selfie stick so they can get the Instagram photo for their Instagram, obviously, or for their Facebook. We relate to the imminence of a place like the Grand Canyon through Facebook. Myself included. I'm not throwing stones without getting the first stone out of my own eye. But we lose something. We don't often pause to listen to the canyon, to feel the energy of the layers of stone or the mighty Colorado River. Because we think of it or relate to it as if it's another Disneyland with its rows of flowers in formation and its stone paths. The first thing you can do is pick up Stephen Harrod Buhner's book and read it. Reconnect. The only regret you might have is the fact that you might start being troubled in a good kind of way. Maybe you'll have the courage to listen to that voice of longing that disturbs you when you have settled for something safe.